I want to know more about what that actually means in real terms, because I know it's a free online course, takes 20 minutes, and it's run by the Zero Suicide Alliance. More than 1 million people have done it since it started 3 years ago. So just put that into perspective. 3 years to get just over 1 million, 500,000 in the last 3 weeks. This is on top of us knowing that 25 million people, we reckon, are suffering from extreme anxiety in Great Britain. In 2018, there were more than 6,500 suicides registered in the UK, 3/4 of them among men. I know back where I'm from, there's a real problem with younger men growing up. So let's talk now to Dr. Joe Rafferty, who's the chair of the Zero Suicide Alliance, so we can find out all about it. I know you're CEO of the Merseycare NHS Foundation Trust as well. Dr. Joe Rafferty, your days must be long and harrowing, so thank you so much for joining me this late in the day.
It's a pleasure, Colin. Good evening.
Thank you, mate. Can you put that into real sort of terms for me? This 500,000 people ringing up and actually doing the suicide prevention training in over a period of just 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable surprise to us as well. So the Zero Suicide Alliance, we formed just about 3.5 years ago, actually, and our objective was really to sort of challenge the notion that suicide is inevitable or unpreventable. You know, you'll often hear people say, well, you know, you can't stop someone. If they're determined to kill themselves, somebody will. And of course, we sort of audaciously and ambitiously have attached the number 0 to this, you know, in part because suicide is a heavily stigmatized issue. You know, people still use that horrible phrase, committed suicide, because it used to be a crime. So as part of the Zero Suicide Alliance program, we developed a very short, very simple awareness tool, which is an online tool. And as you said, it takes about 30 minutes to go through. It doesn't make you a professional. It doesn't make you a suicide prevention professional. What it does do, however, is a couple of really simple things. It gives you very, very rapidly the awareness that it's okay to talk about suicide. You know, it debunks the myth that if you talk to somebody about suicide, you're more likely to sort of encourage them to undertake a suicide attempt. Whereas actually the opposite is true. Talking to somebody is a very significant way to de-escalate the risk. And really it runs through a little set of scenarios which at the end of it, I think, build people's confidence to do the very thing in your 1-minute clip that it said in the introduction, which was, if you see somebody who you think they're having a bit of a bad time, don't be afraid to go and speak to them. Open up the conversation.
Do you think it's being used by people, and just, this might have to be a bit anecdotally, obviously, with a spike, but do you think, Dr. Joe, it's being used by people who are fallen below the waterline, that are starting to drown, or by people who live with or are worried about somebody they know?
Yeah, I think, Colin, I mean, my guess is it's a bit of both. I mean, we can't break the statistics down at this stage. But what we know is, since we launched it, we did about 500,000 up to a few weeks ago. So we were averaging around 4,500 people doing the online training a week. And as you said, we've tripped over 1 million. We'll soon hit beyond that, in fact. But our average over the past 3 weeks has been 170,000 per week. Wow. So to break down your question, I think it's a couple of things. Look, there's no question that people are feeling the isolation, the fear, the terrible uncertainty, I think, that is associated with coronavirus infection. And that can be fear for your own health. It can be fear for your mental health. It's your job, it's your education, it's your income, your business. It's the totality of all of those things. And I think certainly for some people, it is the training is an opportunity to get in there and sort of filter things through and get themselves signposted to places where if they need more sustained and deeper forms of help, they can find it easily through the training. But equally, I mean, another side of me thinks that, and this is a personal reflection in many respects, but I think we've seen community cohesion build in the past 3, 4, 6 weeks. we're taking an interest in our communities. I think people are now interested and prepared and willing to think about resilience. And in a way, I think some people have thought about friends who are isolated or who are struggling a bit. And I think they've searched around a bit for tools that might help. And, a bit like you said yourself at the start of your preamble, people need to feel connected, don't they? Even if it's on a one-to-one or,
The two things that I've learned recently, two things. One, when somebody needs to lean on you, right, a friend, when they thank you, tell them not to, because it's not a burden. That's really important. That if you've got somebody, I think, who I always call it a mental health ladder. So if you're near the bottom rung, if your friend's near the bottom rung or a family member, make sure they know it's not a chore at all, and that, encourage them to ring you. I think that's really important. And the other thing, Dr. Joe, is solutions and problems. The more problems that feel like there isn't a solution to them, the more worry somebody can be in. And you talked about it. You said the uncertainty of that situation. You cannot take it on your own shoulders. A lot of it you cannot take on your. It's very dangerous for us to personally take this on our own shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the evidence we have over the years is, we're a social species. We do well if we talk. We can sometimes, even if we're talking in code, it doesn't really matter. You've probably had those conversations with friends in the past, but I think it's the reaching out bit. It's the it's the old adage: a problem shared, a problem halved. Yeah. And we would say more than anything, one of the critical things to do here is take a look at the training, give yourself some basic awareness. Up your confidence and being able to chat to people, and don't be afraid just to ask that question when you notice somebody's a bit quiet or a bit more, they haven't rang in a couple of days. It's all of those little things actually that really matter. There's nothing massively scientific about it. It's not highfalutin. It's not complicated. It is basically sit down with your mate and have a chat. I suspect a bit like your virtual pub from 10 o'clock onwards. It's actually about banter. It's conversation. It's all of the things that we know.
Emotions. I think. Yeah. It's about emotions. Whether people are sort of having a wee tear up at a Deacon Blue track or they're having a belly laugh at Johnny Vegas. I think it's that this feels normal. This feels like I'm in touch with it, with everybody else at that moment.
Yeah, and in a sense that there is hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel, there's kindness, particularly Mental Health Week, So many people who struggle with their mental health, often find themselves locked out of so many things, basic conversations at work, but, more broadly, sometimes out of society totally. And just kindness is a very, very powerful tool to overcome some of this stigma.
Joel and Sorjo are waiting to do the news and sports, so I'm 4 minutes late, but I must ask you this before I go, so I thank them for waiting patiently. Could you imagine if I went on air and said, I know it's we're in a much better place in terms of, and as you said, that this is probably helping people talk openly about mental health, but could you imagine, Dr. Joe Rafferty, if I said, coming up next week, we have special features to mark Physical Health Week. It would sound like something from 1950. One of those old government ads. Make sure you're having some vegetables once a week. We're still, when it comes to mental health, I look forward to when we don't need a mental health week and it's talked about in the same level.
Yeah, you could not be more right. And people often say to me, why did you name it Zero Suicide Alliance? And I said, well, if I'd named it Zero Cancer or Zero Heart Attack, everybody would have said, yep, that makes absolute sense. Yeah. And I want it to be that way.
100%. Dr. Joe Rafferty, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that chat.
Thanks very much for having me. Good night.
Thank you. Cheers. So if you want to have a look at that and you want to learn a bit about it, I'm going to do it without a shadow of a doubt. ZeroSuicideAlliance.com will just give you a little bit of knowledge about what to look out for around those around you. And listen, as I said, we call it the mental health ladder. Whether you're in the top rung or the bottom, it's always good to look after it like your physical health.